Dr. Knag.
Dr. Bilo.
So, what do we do now?
I talked to all specialists I wanted to talk to. I talked to a structural design specialist, Ornella in Milano. I talked to a building physics specialist, Enrico, also in Milano. I talked to someone, Jochen, for maintenance, and I talked to Jochen as a construction company boss for construction
Okay.
comments to site construction.
And now what do we do with that?
Now I take all this information and feed it into my details to make them the final setup.
It's the last feedback in
It's
principle.
the last feedback.
This will become now the final
Set of drawings.
where we have all the impact or the feedback
And comments.
comment.
That's what we then take for someone to go for a tender. So I just go into, there was not a lot of comments from Ornella on structural design. It's actually not that super
that's
complex. She was okay with the tolerances. That's the different materials which we see, the aluminum system.
Here's something.
Here's something. This is when
I see.
when we come to the brick structure. And here she commented, and she's right, as you're dealing with facades, the brick itself is also a cladding, so that needs somehow to be taken as load.
Yeah, stupid for me. I have made these details. several
Yes,
times
you
as
are
a
the bricklayer, so you should have commented.
Stupid for me. So what you actually have is a metal railing, sort of,
Exactly.
on which you place the first layer of stone.
Yeah.
It's also a difficult one because
Yeah.
with the mortar and the metal it doesn't work
If
so
we
well.
believe this is brickwork as well, we may need to have some kind of concrete beam here to take the loads. Not
Okay.
part of our facade engineering,
Yep.
but well, she commented to that as a structural engineer. I continue with this. She was okay with this. The number was okay, and no further comments in these settings as well. And
That was an easy one for you.
that was an easy one for me. Then building physics. Enrico, he actually was super happy that we do these drawings and that we do this kind of education programs because he really sees that this is a benefit. When I went with him through all the details, he was evaluating, okay, you have these two gaskets,
It was
putting
more like
sealant,
not-
3 layers of gasket.
We didn't do anything wrong.
No, he was happy with this one, as I say, in a pressure cavity, which then allows to get drainage here. That was fine as well. The layer of the line of defenses, all okay. Tolerances, not only in one, but also in the other direction, which was fine for him. And this one,
Okay.
yeah.
Totally wrong, no.
No. Looks worse than it ended up in the discussion. He was happy to have this kind of situation, so making sure that we have kind of cover for the water at the outside, line of defense, the inside as well. He wanted this to be sealed here, so he said you should take care of this. We're going to see a detailed solution later for that, and he wanted to make sure that we close all cavities so that it is closed in that
okay.
cavity as well. That was quite clear from him, and even in here.
Yeah, you often intentionally make a little bit more space in between your
he was
sketching.
saying you have to really make sure that this is sealed, so you better draw it in this, situation.
No miscommunication in this case. Huh?
Communication, and it also
The same here also.
finds in here. I understand his point. As Setting was happy to have that sealant here in this situation, and with the others, this one. That was an interesting one.
Is that the silicon joint?
Yes, that's a silicon joint.
Dreiflankenhaftung in Germany. It's silicon joints are used or supposed to be only moving in one direction. So if the silicon also sticks to the back of the gap, then it can't work properly.
So
there's
I'm
a
going to
little
draw
foam
this silicon
cord,
in here,
Yeah, and there's a little foam backing.
and then there's the foam backing.
Yeah.
And by this, I hope we are fine with having this solved.
That's a
He was, that was a good comment. He's right. One part by 2 parts, so that the silicon itself doesn't create too much stress.
It's also in the description of the silicon bead material that they tell you that you have to do this the right way.
This one was mainly a comment: take care if you have these sharp edges that it doesn't get too serious.
What I've learned also that usually...
Hang on. Let's do that on the proper detail.
Okay.
Let's do that on the detail here.
Okay. What I've learned is that you can also, in order to avoid sharp edges, you go in here as a triangle. then you don't have such sharp edge. And then you fill that with insulation, put the tape over, and then you just have to cut an angle from the hard insulation. It's easier to maintain or easier to make on the building site.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Oh, cool.
And finally,
Maintenance.
Jochen gave some comments. This was about
So
maintenance.
we can turn back this stack
Yep.
to page number 1 again.
No deeper comments at these places, nothing special. We were talking about the alternative solutions for the window material. This is a traditional timber window, and he commented you may also find solutions where, say, this outer layer is done in aluminium.
So it's a hybrid aluminium wood window.
Exactly. I'm not going to draw this entirely, but you can assume that, let's say, this becomes an aluminium profile, and this becomes an aluminium profile, and then you have the outside being covered by aluminium, the inside being done in a timber window, which I understand as a solution.
I like that because you have the nice look from the interior, where also the wood stay very long, intact, and on the outside you save on coatings and painting it on a 5-yearly base or whatsoever. Aluminium lasts very longer.
He was fine with that. He was fine with the 15 millimeter tolerances in 2 directions. He was having a clear comment on this, and I think he's very right.
But we did it right. But
yeah, we have to be precise.
Okay. No, that. I think you have mentioned that also. It's easier to see when you look at the facade. Here, precisely.
It's drawn like this.
Yeah. So.
But I didn't complete the detail correctly.
Yeah, you're
so
right. No, it's, he was really sharp.
Yes, he was really sharp.
Well, that's good.
To do this, and he also addressed this needs to be 2 centimeter, 20 millimeter by regulation to secure that water drips down in a proper way. This was the horizontal detail. Yeah. This was the top part.
Again, a edge to drop from.
Yep.
There was already one.
Yeah, but he wasn't happy with that because he said this is difficult to make.
Okay. So
from his experience as a metal manufacturer, he's able to do sharp edges as an easier setting. This was this direction, then we had this one.
All fine, nothing to mention.
Nothing to mention. Nothing to mention.
Plaster cladding.
Nothing to mention. All fine.
And that's it.
That's it. So we go back, and now site construction. Again, Jochen.
Yeah, valuable input. He's the guy who sets facades to the building.
He's who's going to make it.
Yeah, precisely.
So we start, and he was again fine with that one. Fine with that one. We discussed the different types of choices. Again, line of defenses, no comment. This one, tolerances. That was an interesting one to discuss with him as well, because he said, you're okay with these tolerances. For one window in position, it's fine. But if you assume you have a bunch of windows, the grid of the sheet metal needs to be straight. And you then have to somehow shift this.
So to keep the lines vertically by still being able to allowing for tolerances, it's a good one.
That's a tricky one. So
you don't have to deal with one window in tolerancing, but you also have to make sure that the layout of the facade is intact.
Yeah, we're not solving this in this set. We also don't solve some kind of coverage here, outer closing, whatever. No sun blinds, nothing like this. It's a simple setting, but this is something which, say, really needs to be taken into consideration.
Means you may end up with smaller windows in order to cover all the tolerances over 6 windows on top of each other.
Various ways of dealing with, or you have more smaller parts of sheet metal to allow to have more tolerances in the geometry. So that was a clear, interesting comment. I really liked it. It's clear that he's a professional at that one. And then this one, he wasn't happy with my solution of fixing with the brackets here. He didn't like them. In his idea, we should have a bracket here at the bottom to place the window.
Yeah. I remember to just set him there, and then you can already rest while the guys don't have to carry the heavy load of the window anymore.
I'm going to draw this now. I hope this lasts. And we're going to have a metal bracket here.
So So it's an angle profile steel
Yep, profile steel, which is going to be.
being anchored down to the load-bearing facade.
Yes.
Just draw one line or two, maybe precisely.
Then he wanted an aluminium profile here.
Oh no, this should be steel, I think. This is a square steel tube.
You're right, a steel tube. It should be here,
Yep.
which then takes the loads of the window and also allows us to do fixing.
Yep.
And then he said there should be a plastic profile which covers this.
This is in order to avoid a thermal bridge.
And that also makes our building physics specialist happy because we close that entire void.
Ah, perfect.
So that's this detail. What I'm now missing is sealant. So now I took away all the opportunities to seal this. And he said he'd like to have better something which fits here.
Ah, but that's the air tightness.
Air tightness. And I understand that by order, you position the window, you fix it here. You then place the insulation and you fix it here. It's a bit less complex than also doing all the tightness in here and then putting the insulation. So I understand his point. I understand this say question, but that also means that we have to get rid of this because we don't have that angle anymore.
That's the vertical, that's the horizontal section.
Horizontal section.
So we're only supporting it from the bottom,
Yes, and
but then we also need something on top.
yeah, we're going to see that in a minute. And then he wants it to be fixed here, and we need some cover here.
Ah, so this is the tape, the sealant, and then we cover it with a strip or something.
Yeah. And then for the top, you're right, because
okay.
if the window stands like this and it starts to tilt, we need to somehow do something at the top. And if that doesn't happen at the side, we need to do this at the top.
Do you have movement in here?
Yeah.
So in case the building moves, or is that thermal expansion from the window, for instance?
Both.
Both, okay.
I would hope the building is not going to really move a lot, but obviously it can move, and obviously the aluminium isn't solid enough to take that as a load. So we need to make sure that if there's any movement from the building or thermal expansion from the window, this doesn't harm the window, which means we're going to have a sliding part in the cavities of the aluminium system, which then allows the movement here while this stays. Or
So you keep it in place,
yeah.
and then the element is still able to move a little bit up and down.
And again, he wanted it to be sealed here.
And then a cover or layer of plaster later on.
That's actually what happens when you talk to someone who's then at the side.
Yeah.
They come with their own solution, and you should be open enough for this as, say, the one who's dealing with it. Same setting here, same setting here. I'm not changing the detail, but it's exactly the same setting.
Yep.
And then with this one, he was actually quite clear about this detail, the detail with the this situation.
Yeah.
He said you should really take a piece out of the shelf from the supplier so that the water tightness in this situation is really given from the plaster, so that you don't get water in the system. And that was mainly it.
Perfect.
And now we have a set of drawings which is approved by consultants, approved by engineers, and we
So with this as a holy set almost,
already said.
yeah, of course, we can ask for a tender.
Yes, this is now, I would say, finished for a tender process, and then companies like the one from Jochen will give a bid on it and come with a suggestion of how to make it.
Yeah.
Good. This is the normal setting. We may also think of alternatives.
In which way?
Naya, freeform.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So let's do that.
Okay.
Good.